Hi everybody, and welcome to the webinar for the Manage Finances Within a Budget events unit. This is probably going to be, I think, the fourth unit, depending on which course you're in. And today we're going to be going through assessments 1, 2, and 3. This entire unit is really based around two different events that you're going to be looking at. So you've got a conference and you've got a wedding. So both of these client needs are very different, and I believe that this unit is definitely one of the ones that provides you with that real life experience and those skills, where you're going to be looking at your different client needs and how you can accommodate those within the budgets, and taking in quite a lot of variables into consideration when you're adjusting any costs or budget amounts. So today's going to be pretty exciting stuff. So today's purpose, we're going to be breaking down assessments 1, 2, and 3. As always, I've got the unit breakdown up on the screen. Well, I will have for you guys to follow along with. I've also downloaded the Excel document, so we're going to be looking through those. Everything that I've got on my screen is going to be either downloadable on your LMS, or I can send you the unit breakdown when you're up to that unit, or you can request it if you don't already have it. So the session is going to run with those being up on the screen. I'm going to take you through each of the questions on each assessment and really, I guess, discuss what you're needing to do with that one. With this unit, it might be a little bit different, as we're going to be looking more at the budget than the actual assessment, I think, just to be able to take you guys through that. Both budgets look quite different from each other. They both have different setups. The conference has a lot more variables within it as well, and the wedding budget has got a little bit of altering for you to create in your own assessment as well. So how can you get the most out of this webinar? I would probably suggest having had a good read through of the assessment first as well, so you've got a bit more of an understanding behind what we're going through. Have a look at the documents. I download the budgets for both of the assessments. You're going to be needing them both for assessment 3 as well. So definitely get familiar with them, how they're looking and everything, because chances are, in real life situations, every single budget or profit and loss statement or anything like that is not going to look exactly the same. So it's really great to be able to understand the difference between them, I guess, and how they're set out. So getting the most out of the webinar, download those documents from the LMS, have a look at your unit breakdown if you've already got it, and read through the budgets as well, just to kind of get that understanding. I would definitely take down some notes and everything. I'm pretty old school, as I've said before, so you guys are more than welcome to take notes. The webinar is really awesome because you get to pause me at whatever point and also replay sections that you may have missed. But definitely, yeah, pay attention, get some notes happening, and I think you'll get the most out of the webinar this way. After the webinar, hopefully you've got enough knowledge and everything that you're armed with now to be able to go ahead and complete those assessments. We're really looking forward to ticking them off for you. So once you've completed them, feel free to submit on your LMS, especially if you're looking for a draft. Submit it to the LMS, let me know that there's a draft sitting in there, and I'll have a look at that one for you. That way everything is recorded, feedback-wise and everything, it's always there for you to find. So that's what we're looking for, that big green tick. So let's get started. So the unit assessment overview, as I said before, it's 3 consecutive assessments that you're looking at the same 2 events. So the first one, you're really looking at your conference budget. So I hope you've got that one downloaded so you can have a look at that as well. And then the second assessment is looking at a wedding, and the third assessment is going to be looking at both of these and adjusting them depending on the deposits that have been paid towards those events. So yeah, basically you're just going to be looking after 2 different clients. They've got 2 different set of needs and different budgets as well that they're keeping to. So it's pretty interesting. So assessments, let's break them down. So I'll just pull up the unit webinar breakdown, for you. So as I said before, Unit 4, Manage Finances Within a Budget, and we shall get started. So the first task of assessment 1 is you're going to be allocating a budget. So what we're really doing here is we're going to be looking at the conference budget that has been put together for us, which is the Excel document that I'll pull up in a second. This has been put up together, and we're going to be looking at whether or not the expenses have been allocated correctly based on the number of days that we're having this event for and how many people are coming along. The important thing, I guess, to keep in mind with this as well is that all of these numbers are up to your discretion, really. So whether you think it's realistic or not, and how much you would increase that by. Everything that you do in these assessments must be justified. So when you're discussing what you've changed and everything in these budgets, you really do need to discuss why you've changed it to be that amount, why you haven't changed something, and just really discuss why that is all happening. So I really want to, I guess, get the reasoning behind that and really understand the justification behind the changes that you've made. So as an assessor, I think to keep in mind for this one is I really look at this as if I was the client. So if you were to tell me that this has been changed for, you know, X amount, I would really want to know why that's happened, why I'm paying extra for that, or why I'm, you know, why another section has been allocated differently. So you really want to keep in mind that you're wanting to come from this from both perspectives. So let's have a look at our little scenario here. So the events team is looking forward to your knowledge being shared as this event is planned for the XYZ conference. So your client, Sally Williams from XYZ Events, has put together a conference budget for you to capture the revenue and expenses anticipated for the event. This is the first event Sally has managed, and she will need your guidance to ensure that she's accounted for everything her conference needs to budget for. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make sure that her budget it makes sense. And, you know, big tip, not everything is correct. So this is where you want to be coming in with all of your stuff. So the particular areas of concerns are calculations for expenses. Have they been allocated correctly? Some of them may seem a little low and need to be checked so that they begin with realistic costs. Let's just say that. So we're going to look at each section and decide whether the amount of the guests plus the amount of days affects the cost per day and estimated cost, and does it seem reasonable. And what I mean by this is if we just pull up this draft here. Alrighty. So we have got our event descriptions up the top here. So the estimated number of delegates is you've got 380 people coming to this event. The number of days is 3. So this is where you want to take into account cost per day, which is your very first column here. So we want to make sure that the cost per day matches the estimated total, and is that enough to cover everything off? So how you would calculate that is just making sure that this times however many days equals this amount, so the estimated total. So for instance, we've got venue hire per day, 2,500 times by 3, is that 7,500? Yes, no. And this is where you can change it as well. So the actual cost might be able to change here later on, or you can just update the cost per day. My, I guess my tip here is for formatting wise and just to make it easier for marking as well. Change the color of the font that you're using for anything that you have changed, so it stands out and that you can show, here I've changed this section and this section, etc. Big areas of concerns that I would definitely have a look at is your expenses in here for things like your alcoholic beverages and your non-alcoholic beverages. So right now they're saying that alcoholic beverages is $40 per day is how much they budgeted for their 380 people for each day, so 3 days. Is that then going to be enough for your section? So you really want to have a look then at whether it all makes sense in with the number of days that you're having this event and the number of people. If you're changing anything, so say you're going to be upping the alcoholic beverages or specialized catering or anything like that, then you just want to change the color of the font like I said before, and just make sure that that's all in there. So how this draft is really being set out is that they've given you a total estimated revenue is how much you're going to be making. All of this revenue is coming from your ticket prices. So your 380 people, your delegates, they're going to be buying those tickets, which is going to include all of their stuff for the conferences. So that's where your money is coming from. Obviously, we want to be in a profit, and that's where you're going to be looking at how much your expenses are, so how much everything costs, versus how much money is coming in. So we've got your total, estimated total of expenses and everything here is $306,000. So you're still in a profit then, because you're going to be making $456,000 minus the $306,000 gives you a profit of however much. So that's where you still want to keep in mind that even though you're changing your expenses, you then want to make sure that your ticket prices is going to be still making sure that you're earning some money for this event. So when you're changing everything here, the last thing you want to be changing specifically is up here with the ticket. So the ticket price must be above $1,009. And the recommended ticket price is $1,200. So if you're going to be changing any of that, you just need to, again, justify why. So obviously it can't be an unrealistic amount that's just astronomical that no delegate would pay. So it needs to be within reason. And that's why it's really important to show where everything is going. So that is the little budget. So we'll go back to your questions. Cool. So, as I said before, particular areas of concerns are calculations for expenses. So that expenses section, you really want to make sure that everything's being calculated correctly. And again, looking at the number of guests plus the number of days that this conference is happening. So just making sure that that all seems reasonable and realistic. As I said earlier, that's all up to your own discretion, whether you want to change specific things or where you want to allocate that money from. But then again, put yourself in the mind of your client and the nature of the event and everything else, and just kind of, I guess, suss that one out that way. For the second point, it's saying ensure that all areas where spend should be included are completed. So some sections in the budget are actually missing the estimated cost section. So they may have a cost per day, but they haven't actually calculated the estimated total for that 3 days period. So you really want to make sure that those are filled out. So if we go back to our budget again, one that really stands out straight away is you've got your on-site expenses here. So you've got setup charges and dismantling charges. So you've got 500 and 500, but there's no estimated cost here. So how then can we know what the subtotal is and the contingency really here? Like, we don't have an estimated total. So is this all going to be correct then? Because maybe it's not. So that's where you really want to calculate these. Double check the estimated total for basically, I would probably just estimate to check it for mainly everything, just to make sure that all the calculations that Sally has given you are correct, because sometimes, this estimated total may not be correct, therefore the contingency is wrong and the subtotal is wrong, which means that your actual budget is out. So you definitely want to double check that, but making sure that your on-site expenses have an estimated total and that your marketing section has an estimated total. So again, taking into account whether you're going to be doing any marketing on the day or for the 3 days, maybe it's in the lead up. So is $800 enough? And then if so, if you don't want to change any of that, you can just give me an estimated total and make sure all of that fits together nicely with your contingency and your subtotal and everything like that. Same thing with insurances. They don't have anything really here, or general expenses. So this will come later with your deposits as well. Cool. So summarizing point 2, just making sure that you've got this estimated total column where it has a cost per day, there's an estimated total. So make sure that that all is all calculated and all added up nicely. For the third point, we're following on from the sections that are being filled out. So it's your estimated total, determining if the conference ticket cost is set correctly. So like I said earlier, based on the changes that you've made to your expenses, is the current ticket cost, so that's at $1,009, is that going to cover everything that your expenses are, like, is it covering everything of how much your expenses are? And is it leaving you in a profit? Are you making any money from it? If not, you're going to need to adjust the amount. So again, that ticket amount at the top here, this is all going to change. So you've got your recommended ticket price, the price must be above, and then you've got these two numbers here. So maybe the net cost per delegate is going to change. Your markup fee might still be 25%, so you'll keep it at that. So then of your new amount, what is your markup fee then, which will indicate what the new ticket price will be. So I would probably just, for the purposes of the assessment, just put everything in the next column there. So you've got the old prices versus the new, and that way we can see what the difference is, because everything you've changed in your actual budget should be a different color, just to show where you've made those changes and everything. And that is all you need to do for that first section there. So following on, so we're going to, I guess, actually recap that first, because it might be a little bit too much. So what we're doing is, the first point is that we're calculating that all the expenses have been calculated correctly based on the number of delegates that you got, so 380, and the days of the event, so that's 3. So just making sure that everything is a reasonable and realistic price for those 3 days, making sure that the cost per day is correct, and then if you're changing anything, making sure that that's in a different color, just to make it easier for marking. For the second point, you're ensuring that all areas where spend should be included are completed. So just making sure that that estimated total cost is, or that column is being completed for anything that has a cost per day. You're giving me an estimated total cost. That's for the entire 3 days. Following on from that, you're determining if the conference ticket cost is set out correctly. So from there, you're going to make sure that your expenses have been set, your estimated totals have been set, and then making sure that your ticket cost will still cover your new expense amount and still leave you in a profit. So making sure that in that second blank column that you're going to be putting all of your new numbers and everything in there to make sure that your amounts are showing that you're in a profit. Once that's done in a Microsoft Word document or Pages or whatever you use, you're going to be creating a report for your team to advise of the amendments that you made to their budget. So this is where it comes in handy for me to be able to see the actual amounts that you have changed in a different color, because in this report, you're going to justify everything in there. So what amendments have you made? What have you changed? Why have you changed it? And what's your reasoning behind it? And how is this going to affect the actual budget? What's our estimated revenue, and what's our estimated total expenses, and what's our estimated profit? Are we still in a profit? So hopefully we are, because we don't really want to be having an event where we're planning for a loss. So we would definitely want to still be in a profit. The report doesn't have to be a long report or anything else. I'm more than happy for you to just set it as an email and then having just dot pointed sections of, you know, the changes that you've made and then your justification with it. But I do need to stress that the justification for it is the most important part of this profit. I need to understand why you've made those changes and how you came to those conclusions. Making sure that your new totals and the whether you're still in a profit and how much you're in a profit by is definitely in the foreground of that report, because that would be something that your client would be looking for. They're running the whole event in order to be able to make money as an outcome. So you really need to touch on that, on how much profit they're making based on your calculations. After that one, you're going to outline a process for your event team to follow to keep the budget updated. Basically, what that means is just to make sure that your budget stays current and up to date. So what would be a process for that? You can do some outside research if you want to on updating budget processes or keeping it up to date, really just managing it. But it more comes from, I guess, just common knowledge of how you would make sure that that document or that budget stayed up to date and current. So, you know, when you get quotes in or something, that could be something that you would then advise your team to update in the budget. If you get a quote, if they get a deposit, they need to update that straight away into the budget to make sure that everything is still correct. If there are any changes made to the actual event or anything, the budget would need to reflect those changes. So it's just really more about discussing a process for how to do that. You're going to also explain the reasoning for implementing the process. So why do they need to have a process to keep the budget updated? What's the purpose of that? Why is it important to make sure that the budget's up to date? So that's really where you want to have a think about that as well. So you're just going to really, for this one, just really describe the process. It doesn't need to be in complete detail. Just tell me what the process is as if I was working in your events team and I needed to know how to do it. So this is the process, and this is why you need to do it. So a lot of people are why thinkers. So that's going to be really great for them because they know what they need to do, and now they need to know why they need to do it. And that's what you're going to be doing for this one. That is assessment 1. So recapping assessment 1. We're going to be going through your XYZ draft conference budget, which is this little beauty up on the screen now. You're going to make sure that your cost per day is all figured out for your expenses. So this entire column makes sense. You're going to figure that out based on the amount of delegates you have, which is up the top here, and the number of days that you're holding this event. Any changes that you make need to be colored in a different font just to make it easier for yours truly to market, and as well for when you're looking at assessment 3 to be able to look back and see what changes you have made, which is pretty exciting. For the second point, you're going to be looking at the estimated total and making sure that each section has an estimated total in there if need be. So the ones I've pointed out that are quite easy is the on-site expenses and the marketing. Furthermore, for that, I would definitely suggest that you double check the estimated totals for the rest of the ones that have been pre-filled out by Sally, just to make sure that her totals are correct and that you're working with an updated budget. And then for the third point, you're making sure that your ticket cost from up here is going to be enough to make sure that you guys as a team are creating enough revenue to be able to be in a profit at the end of this event. So making sure that your net cost per delegate is updated, the 25% markup fee is updated, and then ensuring that your ticket price is above that certain amount. It can be, you know, around the recommended ticket price is $1,200, so you can work from that and work backwards if you really want to. But that is my little 2 cents for that one. After that, you're going to be doing your amazing report on the amendments that you made to the budget and explaining what you've changed and why you've changed it. So that justification, as I've said multiple times, is really important. So make sure that you've done that. And then your lucky last third point is just going to be outlining a process for your events team to follow to make sure that budget stays updated and is managed correctly, and explaining the reasoning behind that process and for using it. And that is it. For assessment 2, we're going to be looking at our second budget. So this is going to be the wedding. Arguably, I would say that out of the budgets, I guess the formatting of the budget, the wedding budget is a lot simpler. It's more, I guess, client friendly in a way, because, you know, you can't always assume that your bride and groom are, you know, super financially minded or something, so that they know exactly how to read a big spreadsheet of budgeting and everything. So I find that this one is really client friendly, and just for future reference is a really great little format to use, like template to use to do up a client friendly budget. So for this one, your events company is looking after the wedding of Martin and Rebecca, which is taking place at Athol Hall in Sydney on Saturday, July 29th, 2017. Everything that you need to know about Athol Hall is in a PDF document on your LMS that you can download. So it's got details on there about the actual venue and catering and everything else, which you'll need to use for your budget to amend the figures and everything. So the bride, Rebecca, is very organised and has put together a wedding budget for the event using information she's gained from research conducted using the Athol Hall details available on the website. They've set a budget for $60,000 for the event, and they're holding their wedding on the lawn, followed by a sit-down reception for 120 people. They've organised a lot of this themselves, but have asked for your assistance in working with the venue to make the arrangements. So the couple have asked if you can create a more detailed budget for the venue requirements, including the budget allocation for food, beverages, entertainment. So from this, we'll have a look at their wedding budget that Rebecca has lovingly done up. And as I said, this looks a lot simpler. It's a lot more client friendly, which is excellent, because you've got your estimated amount, your actual amount, what the deposit has been, you know, if the deposit gets paid, how much is that, and then your balance and how much you've saved. So they've already done all of their stuff like apparel and rings and everything, and beauty. So what we're doing here is we're looking at the ceremony site and the reception site as well later on. But firstly, we're doing your food and beverages and your entertainment. All of this information that you're going to need for the food and beverages is going to be in the Athol Hall details, where they're discussing all the catering. What I would probably do here is either edit this document to create a more detailed look, you know, like first course and all of that, and then add in those numbers and everything else. Keep in with this template, so with your estimated costs, your actual costs, and then deposit and everything, just so if they want to pay deposit, you can put that towards that. So this is where you would really break this one down. So they've got the estimated total here of their budget. Yours may be different. So this is where you want to amend it based on that. So for each of these sections, your food, your beverages, and your entertainment, you just really want to make sure that in your wedding budget here, you're really breaking that down so they can see where that money is going. Same thing with the music and everything else as well. So maybe Athol Hall has, you know, different music and everything. It's up to you to find out. But you really want to make sure that these sections are really broken down to, you know, first course, second course, whatever, however you want to do it. But just so that you're giving this back to the client with as much of the information in there, easy to see as possible, I guess is the way to say it. Okie dokie. So once you've done that, you're going to write a letter or an email to Rebecca with the updated budget explaining the amendments that you've made. So keep in mind that the communication is to a client, so it does need to be professional, and really describe the changes that you've made to her budget. So this is why, like I'm saying, that it's really important, I guess, to really make it clear where that money is going and where that difference is in that budget. And then when you have that, you can use that as like a visual for Rebecca in her email to describe everything that has come from. And again, all that information will be in the Athol Hall details document, which is the PDF on your LMS. So you'll be able to create everything from there. For task B, you're going to be doing a little bit of a research thing as well. So we're going to be looking at the Park Regis concierge apartments in Cremorne, if I'm saying that correctly. So it's the ideal location. So they're wanting studio rooms and one-bedroom apartment style accommodations for the interstate and international guests. So what you're doing here is you're going to be looking up, and it has to be that specific hotel, apartment, place. So you're going to be looking at that and finding what their 3 times 1 bedroom apartments, how much that would cost, and how much 2 studio apartments would cost. You can just do all of this in a Word document first if you wanted to, because you're going to be discussing transfer options as well. So it's a little bit like being a bit of a travel agent. So we're going to investigate those costs of booking the bedroom apartments and the studio apartments, and then advising the room rates and overall costs for each. If you wanted to, you can put this in the budget already, like now, so while you're doing it, so because you need to do it for point 2 anyway. But otherwise, I would also advise definitely putting it into the communication to Martin and Rebecca, so to your clients. So you want to really make sure that it's set out in an email. So again, professional, but you might have a section where it's like, this is how much, the bedrooms cost, this is how much studio apartments cost. Next section, transfers. So that could be, private transfer options like hiring a car or like having a shuttle bus or something like that, but that's up to you to find out. Everybody goes for different transfer options, so up to you. But you want to have that information communicated really clearly in the email. Once you've completed that email, you're going to be updating the wedding budget with those figures. So again, I would probably, I'll pull this up so we can have a look-see. So we've got all of our little sections here. So you've got your transportation and everything here, and then other expenses. But this honeymoon and the transportation is not for the rooms that you're booking now. So with everything here, you can follow on from the same formatting, sorry. But these, so where did it go? Transportation. Okay, cool. So what you're not wanting to do here is having the transportation is not the same as your transfers. So adding some lines in here, so underneath other expenses, would be fantastic, because that way you can have transfers for guests and then have how much, however else, like much that would cost. So you can have your estimated value for that, and then your accommodation. So then you want to set out like the rest of the format. You would have, your main header then would be accommodation. Then you've got your 1 bedroom apartments times 3. So how much would that cost? So that's for the 3 apartments. How much would that cost? And how much would 2 studio apartments cost? Then you've got your estimated total there, and then you can, do your balance and everything else. So that's what you want to put under here. So I really don't mind it if you just add in a few extra lines just to make sure that everything is in the same document. But that information, whatever information you put into that budget, must be in the email. So they need to match. So that's no big thing for that one. And that is the end of assessment 2. So the assessments for this this unit is not really they're not very big or anything like that. It's just more about the attention to detail, I guess, of the budgets and the costs that you're going to be working with. So that is the wedding. So first off, to recap, we're going to be looking at the wedding budget that Rebecca has sent through to you. And you're also going to download the LMS, on the LMS, the Athol Hall Details PDF document. Once you've done that, you're going to make a detailed budget about the food, beverages, and entertainment as per the information that's on the Athol Hall Details document. So you're going to add to the existing budget. So you're going to be adding in like your music, so that's your entertainment, and then really breaking down that food and beverages section as well to make sure that all of the, you could break it down to courses or however you want to do it, but just making sure that each of those is detailed in there so that Rebecca will be able to see exactly where that money is going, exactly what the new total is for that, that budgeted price. Okay, cool. After you've updated the budget, you're going to send Rebecca an email, which is just going to be explaining the amendments that you've made. So again, justification. So, this is what you've changed. This is why you've changed it. So again, for this one, I would probably more aim it towards client needs, like meeting the client needs, and really making sure that it's quite clearly set out. For assessment 2, you're going to be doing a little bit of travel agenting. So you're going to find what the cost of booking 3 one-bedroom apartments and 2 studio apartments for the Park Regis concierge apartments, and advising the room rates and overall cost for each of those to your clients. So again, in a professional email. You're also going to investigate and recommend 2 transfer options to transport the guests from the accommodation to the wedding venue. So they've given you the wedding venue in this little thing here. So it's Athol Hall in Sydney, and you'll know where the Park Regis is. So you just want to make sure that you guys can find out what the transfer is. So cars, shuttle buses, anything like that, and just come up with 2 options and advise how much that's going to cost as well. After you've done that email, you're going to update the wedding budget with these fancy figures. So we're going to go into the wedding budget here, and following on from all of this, again, the transportation here, the limousines and trolley, and the honeymoon, everything, this is just for your bride and groom. So this is not for their guests. So what you want to do is just add a few extra lines in here and then come up with the accommodation prices and the transfer options. And that is how you're going to figure out into the budget, because they're still looking at the $60,000 overall. Perfect. So when you have completed those, you also want to make sure that you're updating this very top number up here. So if you're adding in, if the food costs extra or anything like that, or if you're adding in extra lines and everything here, like at the bottom for your transfers and accommodation, you want to make sure that this estimated total up the top has come up or down, or whatever you're doing for it. So they're still at the budget of $60,000. So if you're going to go over it, you really want to justify why that's going over and showing where that money is going. But that's probably my number 1 tip for that little section up there. Just make sure that this one is updated, because otherwise it's going to not be in line with what you're updating. Alrighty. Lucky last assessment for this unit is assessment 3. So during this task, you are going to demonstrate the ability to monitor financial activity. So basically what's happening here is that you have received a lot of deposits for both of these events. So you've got your XYZ conference and your wedding. So invoices are coming in for payment and deposits from both of your clients. And as the events manager, it's important that you update the income and expenditure against the appropriate budget and keep your records regularly updated. So for this one, you would have already handed in your assessment 1 and 2, which is your fancy updated budgets. So we'll have them on record. What you want to do now is update those already updated budgets. You don't want a new one. You want your figures and everything on there. And then you're going to place each of these deposits into your Excel document, so into your budget. So split these ones up, so they're not all going to be for Athol Hall, and they're not all going to be for the XYZ conference, of course. So they're going to be a little bit mixed. So what you really want to do here is just update it and make sure that you're putting in those amounts. So for example, you've received $3,500 from the wedding couple. So you're going to go to your very fancy wedding budget, and you're going to put in the deposit in the deposit column wherever you see fit. So it's a general deposit, so you can put it towards anything you want around here. So it can be a deposit towards your honeymoon. It can be a deposit for invitations. You can split it up between everywhere, but making sure that you're updating that deposit column and hopefully putting that into a different font color as well, just to make sure that's really out there. The deposit column you'll need to update as well to show how much deposit has been made now, to show what the new balance is and how much they've saved. Depending on, you won't need to update the saved one, but you really want to make sure that your estimated has been updated, your deposit has been updated, and your balance has been updated, to make sure that those all flow and are accurate readings of what's going on in your actual budget. So just making sure that you're carefully placing each of these into a deposit column. I guess my little bit of feedback on the XYZ client budget here, if I just pull this one up. They do have a section in general expenses, which is deposits. So you can add all the deposits together if you want to. Otherwise, feel free to add another column in here if that makes life easier for you, to be able to calculate all the deposits and show them what they've actually paid towards, and then what the variance is. So even if you add another column in between actual cost and variance, you'll be able to see how much deposit has been made. Or you can start going through and putting all your deposits into the general expenses. Up to you how you really want to do it, but you just want to really make sure that your deposits and everything are reflected in here. So all your accommodation and stuff is down the bottom, and they put money towards that. So for me, it's easier if I put another column here for deposits, and I can clearly see how much money is being put towards it. But again, up to you how you want to do that one. And that is all you need to do for that first point there. So just splitting up all of those budgets and everything, all the deposits, and making sure they're going into the correct budget. So all your deposits going for the wedding couple into the wedding budget that you've already updated in assessment 2, and making sure that all of your deposits for the XYZ conference are going into the budget that you updated for assessment 1. Cool. Following on from the update of the appropriate budgets, you need to prepare a report to each client detailing any deviations and recommending how these may be managed effectively. So basically you need to write 2 separate emails, one to each client, so one to the wedding couple and one to your conference people. And they need to detail the deposits that have been received, any outstanding amounts for each section, and how those budgets are going to be managed by your team effectively. So you should also include how you're handling the lump sum. So for example, with the XYZ people, you've got $25,000 that has been deposited for the conference. How are you splitting this up? Like, where is that going into? So you really want to make sure that you're discussing in detail what's been going on, especially if you're thinking again from a client perspective, where that money is going. If you're a client, you'd really want to know, you put down that deposit money, whereabouts is it going? So just updating that in this email as well to show where you've put it. Cool. Once you've done that, you're going to prepare a summary of the income received and payments to be made for both events for the accounts payable department. Basically what that means is that you're just making a template, or you can find a template online of an invoice, one for each event, and which is going to be addressed to your accounts payable department. And it should just detail all of these. So whatever has been received for the wedding couple, that's what you're going to put on invoice number 1. And anything that's been received for the XYZ client conference, that's what you're going to put on assessment on the second invoice as well. So you just really want to make sure that's quite clearly set out, and it should look like an invoice. So all the actual costs and everything, the amount should line up nicely. There should be a total amount in there as well of the total deposits that you've received, and they should have items with it. So you would have, like the wedding cake deposit, $400, florist deposit, $300. So you really want to make sure that that's clearly outlined in each invoice. And that is it for task A. So recapping quickly for task A, you've got all of these deposits that you have received from your lovely clients. You're going to be updating the budgets for each one of these and really showing where that money is going. For the XYZ conference, I really suggest putting in an extra column for deposits to make life a little bit easier for you when you're calculating everything. So you want to make sure that you're putting in deposits and calculating any variances of outstanding amounts that you need. Once you've done that, you're going to update your clients. So you're going to make sure that each of the reports, which is just an email to your clients, is still written professionally, and it's going to detail the deposits that you've received, any outstanding amounts that they're still needing to pay, and how the budgets are going to be managed effectively for each client. So include information on how you're handling the lump sums, like in my little tip here. Like, for example, you've got the $25,000 deposit for the conference. How are you going to be splitting that up? So really justifying that one for it. Once you completed that, you're going to create 2 invoices, one for each client, and you're going to make sure that each one of those has a clear item for it. So like florist deposit, cake deposit, whatever, and making sure that each of those totals, those costs are lining up properly, and they've got a total at the bottom of what you've received. And that is task A. Amazing. So with task B, it's more of like a little, I guess, external research thing about budget software that you can be using, and how you're going to improve your budget performance. So you're going to research and then prepare a small report outlining an appropriate option that you would recommend your business implement for more effective management of their budget. As you prepare your report, consider the impact to customer service levels provided by your colleagues for your recommendation, and recommend 2 features and/or functions used in accounting software programs to manage budgets that would benefit the organization. What this is basically asking you is to find a budget or accounting software program such as MYOB that might be able to assist you in managing your budget. With the first one, when it's asking you to consider the impact to customer service levels, that's really talking about more of how your colleagues or team members, what the behavior is in regards to customer service. So for instance, if you have been given a particular budget and it's influencing the behavior / customer service levels in a negative way, so maybe, for instance, that there might be like a certain amount of revenue for a certain product that you're really wanting to have, and maybe your team members or colleagues are really just pushing that one product despite service levels getting worse, so then it would be in a negative way. So then that budget wouldn't really be in line with organizational goals or anything like that, and it wouldn't really be appropriate for your customer service levels, because you still want to make sure that they're quite high and that behavior is being influenced positively. So if it's not, it's probably not worth doing. So you really want to discuss here how your management, like how the budget management is going to affect the customer service levels, and then how you're going to recommend 2 features and functions and all functions in an accounting software program to manage the budget. So that's a little bit more of a research thing of where you're going to be finding what kind of functions a software program might have. So it might be able to update your budget straight away and recalculate revenue or profit or anything like that. It might be, you can split things up monthly or however you want to do it. So it's more of a research thing and just describing it. This little report, just a couple of paragraphs is totally fine. There's no word limit or anything on it, and it's not something that I'm expecting to be a harder analysis on. So definitely just looking at 2 paragraphs on this. So how is it going to affect your service levels, and what functions or features would you recommend, and why? And that's really it. So that is the end of Manage Finances Within a Budget. So as I said, assessment 1 and 2, more specifically, really gives you that real life experience and insight, I guess, into how different clients will need different things from you, and how their budgets will be different as well. And the same thing with the formatting. The second one for the wedding budget is so much more user friendly. So it's definitely something to kind of, I guess, keep in mind for all of that as well. But that is it. So if we go back to our little beautiful slideshow, we've already recapped all 3 of your assessments. So where to from here? So from here, I'm hoping that, if you have any questions or concerns or anything, that you contact me. Just feel free to email me, text me, call me, smoke signals, whatever works for you. And we're really hoping to see those submissions coming through. I hope that this webinar has been a bit more helpful, and you've got the unit breakdown with you now as well if you've been sent this. So just have a read of it and make sure that you're being able to access all the budgets and everything, and that it makes sense to you. So yeah, definitely recommending putting that extra deposit column in for your 3rd assessment on the XYZ budget. Just makes life a little bit easier. So from here as well, we've got any questions or concerns. So as I said, you'll feel free to contact me. If you can't get a hold of me straight away, feel free to email the team at studentsupport@fceducationgroup.com, and they'll be able to assist you as well. Otherwise, give me a call, send me a text, or send me an email as well. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you do have. So support available to you. It's obviously me and my amazing team of fellow mentors. We're all available to help you, especially with all the deadlines and stuff happening now. We're really hoping to get you all across the line and stuff and reach those goals that you're after. So I'm hoping that these webinars really help out with that. But what's next? So hopefully you're submitting and you're uploading everything. We're getting that big green tick. After this, feel free to move on to your next unit, which is going to be enhance the customer service experience. And I'll see you in the webinar for that one. Thanks.